We don't hit home runs on this podcast. We work station to station. I'm back with my battery mate, as always, Dustin, and Rob, the righty from the pen, is in to discuss the first homestand of the 2025 Blue Jays season. Dustin, before we get into this episode and sink our teeth into these two series, we're just going to go into a rundown. Jays 5-2. They split the 4-game series to open up the season against the Orioles, and then they came back with a sweep against the Nationals. I checked my phone, Dustin, before, and we are first place in the AL East. So riding high coming out of this this homestand. Why don't you give me some thoughts on just kind of what your feelings of coming out of this homestand, maybe what you expected, maybe just some thoughts on where we're at in this Jay season.
Well, the vibes are pretty high right now, to be honest. I think 5-2 on this stretch of 7 games is probably about as good as we could have asked for, considering Baltimore is a tough opponent, splitting with them, and considering, what happened in that series with the Barrios start and the Scherzer start. So I think, generally I'm happy. The guys are scoring, and they're scoring in, ways that they really kind of haven't been scoring before. And that's sort of my major takeaway, is just how the runs are coming. Seems like the way the lineup's constructed is working. Seems like some good starts from some unexpected people like Springer and Jimenez. And you need to be good in order for this lineup to sort of be longer than just, the big three. Some pretty positive feelings in general. Obviously, a couple small things to be worried about. The Scherzer thing kind of exposes the lack of depth on the starting pitching, but Easton Lucas today had a pretty good start, so yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, just what Dusty's saying. Great start. That's what they had to do, is come off, start the season with, start the season strong. Some surprises, like Dusty said, Springer. Everybody knows my feelings toward Kirk, but he seems to be doing pretty well in his what is he, the 5 or 6 hole. The pitching, Barrios. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really surprised that he blew the opener. I think he did that in a couple of years ago as well. But I have confidence that he'll continue to be a strong pitcher. Scherzer, like I told you, did I want to go see the game? Yes, but I didn't really want to see him for 2 innings, and he lasted 3. Why they didn't give him a cortisone shot, earlier in this, in spring training, I don't know. But it looks like he has one now, so hopefully that will solve some issues. It seems that the team is gelling pretty well. I mean, the big three aren't really performing the way they're supposed to. The bottom half of the lineup is coming through, surprisingly. Even Heineman, he's in the 2 games that he's played as the backup catcher, has been pretty impressive. I just hope that everything works together, and I don't want the big three to start coming around and then the bottom of the lineup tapering off, right? Because I think in order for the Jays to be successful, the whole lineup has to be good. You can have the odd player that might be able to go through their slump, but I think for the most part, they're doing well. They need to do well together as a team. So, I mean, the 5-2 start is good. I mean, granted, Washington isn't a very strong team, but hopefully they continue in this next stretch of games.
Rob, you talked about kind of the lineup and how the bottom half seems to be kind of, the straw that stirs the drink right now. It seems to be they're the ones that are performing and getting the runs in, as Dustin said, unconventional kind of ways, at least how we were used to it. One of the things I noticed that seemed to be absent, it definitely last year and probably the year prior, is there seems to be a lot more productive at-bats and productive outs, right? And, we're the sample size is quite small, right? But from what I can see, when you got, let's say first and second. What seems to be happening is whoever's at the plate, he either, it's a deep fly ball, the corner, he hits a grounder to the right side, like something productive still happens. And that seems to be, and it's obviously very early, but I think that's probably a good sign. And they seem to be, the guys just seem to be swinging the bats just a little bit easier with a little bit less. I don't know. It seemed like kind of the last couple of years, they kind of had the weight of the world on them. And I don't know if that's maybe like they were just given too much information or just being overloaded. But yeah, I think the bottom half of the order, I think there are some kind of interesting things happening. The Jimenez Kirk combo, it's kind of like big man, little man.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of like my sister's cats. So there's like one really fat cat and there's one kind of agile cat. And so they like work together to like get shit done. So like the fat cat uses its like strength to like knock over automatic feeders and get into cupboards. And then the spry, younger skinny cat, he's athletic. So he can get to the top shelf to like go grab that catnip that was hidden from them. Right. And it seems like they're trying to play this big man, little man game where Jimenez could try to get on. And then, Kirk, he seems to be kind of playing within himself a little bit where it's like, hey, I don't need to hit a homer here. What I need to do is just put a good swing on a ball here.
And move him over or
move. And maybe Jimenez ends up on third or at least second. And then, a guy with Jimenez's speed, obviously can score from second on a single. And you know what, even then, we've seen Jimenez try to steal some bags when Kirk's been at the plate as well. So I thought that's kind of, that interesting kind of combo and what they're doing, which I feel like somewhat unconventional in baseball, right? Like everyone kind of usually is in their own, like, yes, you work together as a team, but everyone kind of has to, like, there's not kind of two people that kind of pair off and work together.
It's still an individual game, but I mean, if you can put like a 1-2 punch, like they're doing now, I mean, the head office did say that they wanted to put Kirk behind Jimenez, and I guess we're all just surprised that it was like he was in the number 4 spot, like it's 4 or 5. We were assuming it was going to be maybe more 5-6, but it seems to be working right now. And I mean, when you say the unconventional way that the game that they're playing, I mean, yeah, we're all expecting, home runs, and you see the Yankees and, the home runs and the Orioles with the home runs. And I know I talked about this before, in a prior podcast, and the theory I use is, poker, and, at a poker table, if you're at an aggressive table, you play conservative. If you're at a conservative table, you play aggressive. And I kind of feel like maybe that's what the Jays are doing. Like they're saying, hey, this is a league now of, home runs with, even with these torpedo bats. It's like, maybe we don't play the long ball. Maybe we try to play more of the small ball.
Well, they definitely have been doing that.
Bunting. Yeah. And it seems to be successful. Like the bunts. I mean, today, Wagner, he got a couple of bunts and, he scored. And I was like, man, those were like perfect bunts.
That was
as opposed
really good
to
bunt
the last, yeah. As opposed to the prior years, they couldn't lay a bunt down to save their life. And I was like, maybe you don't make that the focus of your game, but if you play a little bit opposite of the way the rest of the league is, hey, maybe you're onto something.
Yeah, and the home runs will come. I mean, I'm sure Santander will hit a few bombs and Vladdy too. I mean, Bo's been started strong here, so let's not talk about the big three as in they're all doing bad. So I think Bo's been probably the best of the three. He's been pretty hot. Vladdy's he's all right. He's been doing Vladdy things. But Santander has been kind of a little bit of a slow starter generally in his career. So we'll see. I'm sure they'll come around and the home runs will come. I'm sure Jimenez won't hit 40 bombs this year, so those will slow down. But it is, that's a great point about those two together. I think it also gives them kind of that opportunity. I think Kirk is a pretty good sort of bat to ball kind of guy, which makes him great for that hit and run. And when you need to sort of make something happen, and having Springer behind them has been great too. He's been
in that number 6 spot.
Impressive. Yeah. So, it's working out well. Let's keep the lineup the way it is, as they're scoring, multiple, crooked numbers every game. Yeah. I can't complain about the offense right now. I guess the low lights would be, I guess, the Scherzer stuff and the middle relief. So there's no team that has, really good pitchers kind of in that mop up role. I mean, the guys like Brendan Little and Nick Sandlin, and who's the guy that they recently had the DFA,
Love Lady or something.
Love Lady. Yeah. So, I mean, that's been a little bit rough. It's hard when the pitchers don't go more than 5 or 6 innings, then, it's going to be a little bit of a hairy deal. But if they can keep the starting pitching healthy, and those guys can take you into the 6 and 7, then we're cooking with gas. This is going to be a good team.
Dustin, I wonder about when that game with Max Scherzer, who I guess he gave up a couple home runs, but the game seemed to change when he left the game, and I kind of wonder that if there's this psychological thing where teams not really used to what do we do now? We were expecting a starting pitcher to at least go 4 innings, right?
When you say it changed the game, did they win that game? I don't remember.
No, they lost.
They lost that game,
but they were winning when he left.
They were winning when Scherzer left the game, but it just seemed like I wasn't at it. Right. But I was watching, and it was almost palpable. You could feel this change in the kind
for the worst,
the vibes. Well, yeah, for the worst. He goes out of the game and they're up, and it flips over and it starts going in the wrong direction. And I wonder if losing a pitcher Max Scherzer and just losing a starter that early, especially of his stature, I wonder if there's just something that's a psychological thing that just kind of it kind of gives everyone pause, and you're kind of trying to pick up the pieces in a game. And for hitters, it's not really any different, right? They still have however many innings left that are set in the game, but it just seems like it kind of jumbles everything up in terms of psychologically, at least.
Especially when the pitcher that comes in right when he leaves is, gives up the lead, right? And then it's kind of deflating, right? And now as an offensive player, you're thinking, oh, well, now we got to, pick this guy up. We got to, score more. I don't know. I don't remember what the score was, but they had a decent score on the board. And you'd think that, given Scherzer's ability and the quality of the back end of the bullpen, that they'd be able to squeak out a win there. But yeah, now you're clawing back, and you got to put your rally caps on. It is a little bit of a different psychological.
Yeah, I think it had an impact because everybody knew that he was already coming in injury prone. And I think after your first start, when you give up 2 home runs right off the bat, I bet they're thinking in their minds, all right, something's not right here. And then when he gets pulled out because of his thumb or his back or whatever it is, it can be deflating because here you have this guy, and he has a big presence in the dugout. So if they know that he's going to be gone, then I'm sure even for a second you let your guard down, and then you give up the lead. So, I mean, I think he's an important piece on the team. Not even if he's not pitching, which I mean, obviously we want him to pitch, but even today when Ernie Clement got thrown out at home, I mean, his reaction when they didn't overturn that call was he was like, F this, right? So it just shows that he's a team guy, and he's definitely a huge presence. So hopefully even if he's not pitching, he can still be present on the team and be able to give them a bit more drive to win.
Speaking of challenges, Rob, one thing the Jays are not doing very well is their challenges. They are what, 0 for 3 now?
That's what you're saying, yeah.
All 3 were quite close plays. I would say today was probably
reasonably challengeable calls.
They were all reasonably challengeable, but today I thought was like the most likely to get overturned. The others were too close, it seemed like, to actually do it. Now, I think there was another play in yesterday's game. It was yesterday's game where they had already used up their challenge in, like, I don't know, 7th inning or something, and like they couldn't challenge. And so whoever was out on the field was just kind of like, you know, wondering, is like, no, dude, like the challenge is already gone. I know that the Jays got rid of Gil Kim, their field coordinator. That was his title. He was the guy that worked the phone. I noticed now, I noticed now that DeMarlo Hale seems to be the one working the phone now. And I was actually a little bit surprised it like every time I've kind of been surprised how often they've challenged. Now you might as well use the challenge, I guess, like, you know, because it's there. But I feel like in past years it's kind of they've kind of John Schneider's kind of just let things go, or maybe the close plays have been earlier in the game. I did think Ernie Clement should have been called safe, but whatever, they still won anyway. Dustin, you touched on Bo. I feel like while he's probably not been the best performer in the lineup, that's probably Jimenez or Springer. He's brewing. Like you could tell he's progressing. He's playing well. One of the things that I noticed, like defensively, he looks a lot better.
So much better. Today he had like a 360 throw to. Oh, it was a beautiful play.
I think it's because of Jimenez there. Like, he now has a solid second baseman there, and he doesn't have a rotating door of a second baseman. So you're already feeling comfortable that it's like, you know what, you don't have to do it all. You've got a second baseman that is a, you know, elite defender
who's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a level of comfort there, I'm sure.
Yeah. So when a little bit of the pressure is taken off of him defensively, then he can focus on the offense. So I think that definitely has something to do with it.
I wonder if, so last year when he was injured, right, for the back half of the year, I know that my understanding is that he works out with Tulo in the off season.
Oh really?
Yeah. This is my understanding. I don't know if this past off season was the same, but up to now he goes and works out with Troy Tulowitzki. But I wonder if the back half of last year, that's what he was doing, because I think it was maybe the home opener or one of the games in the Orioles series. I kind of did like a double take. I was like, is that Bo? Because it was like, you don't see the hair, right? Because he's, you know, the flow's not there anymore. But I looked at it, I was like, no, that is Bo. He had this like deep throw from short and just like gunned this guy out. And I was like, there's something's happening here. Now, I think the middle infield combination of Bo and Jimenez, man, I think this is going to be really good this year. Like even just, you know, we're talking 5 games and Jimenez is like, he's making plays like deep behind the second base bag. He's doing that. You know how like a third baseman will like cut in front of a shortstop sometimes, right? And like snag a ball. He's kind of like doing the opposite. He's like cutting in front of second base and grabbing balls. He, you know, we heard the Platinum Glove and all this. He was all these honors that he was bringing, and I think he's going to be everything that's advertised, at least defensively.
Yeah, I hope so, and it's good for the pitchers too, because if you know that you have a good defense, you can go attack the offense, knowing that even if they put a ball in play, that you got good defenders behind you, and so now you can attack the strike zone more. So it's great to see an excellent second baseman on the field, and that it's not going to be rotating, like I said, with 3-4 other people.
Right, and that's going to be key for this, starting pitching staff. Nobody on that 5 is going to be lights out, strikeout guy. Even Scherzer, I mean, he was in his early days, but even now, like all of these guys are going to rely on putting the ball play, especially someone like Chris Bassett and Jose Barrios and Bowden Francis. I mean, Gosman a little bit. I'm sure he can. He's probably the most strikeouty kind of guy of the 5, but even him, I mean, he's gonna that splitter is, when it gets hit, you're hoping for a ground ball. So having a good defense, not only in the infield but in the outfield. I mean, guys like Miles Straw being able to be put in there in a defensive late in games, that's going to be key to just keeping runs off the board. That the kind of run prevention strategy that obviously Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro like to do. You need to couple that with obviously scoring runs, which is what is winning games. It's why there's a sweep, and why we're at the top of the division right now. I know nobody's standing watching right now, but it's good to see being above 500. I saw I heard the stat, I forget where I heard it, but a couple places I heard it. It's like, this is the first time when they went above 500 the other day. It was like the first time they were above 500 since April 24th of last season. Right.
Oof. Yeah.
So, yeah. I was like, wow. Jeez. Yeah. We had a rough year last year. So it's good to see that. It's good to see a sweep of a series, so early. I think if I remember last year, I don't think we had a sweep for quite a long time. I don't even remember the first.
Did we even have a sweep last year?
Maybe not. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is a great start.
I think it's a good start. Now, one of the things I do, I think the Washington Nationals are a team that you should sweep.
Of course.
If we're talking about all of this 2025 season, loaded up, all of the importance with it, right? You need to be able to sweep teams like the Washington Nationals, because this is a young team, but it's not a good team, right? Like, they were throwing the ball. I was browsing the game this afternoon, and they were throwing the ball all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to get sweeps against them. Now, before we move on, I do want to talk about George Springer, because George Springer, not traditionally a great starter. Like, he tends to start a little slower, but he's starting very well. But one of the things that I find interesting with Springer is he still has those, like, Dustin, do you remember those like uncompetitive like swings and at bats like the last couple of years? He still has very puzzling swings, even in at bats where he is successful. Like, he hit home run today. He's been hitting some doubles. I've been seeing some like really like rough swings, but Springer seems to be able to not let that kind of at bat just kind of fall away and still be able to get something out of it.
I wonder if it's a little bit of he's just kind of settled into that idea that he doesn't have to be the guy right now, right? Like, I think maybe over the last few years, and it's hard to speak for him, obviously, but I mean, he had to have been thinking, I'm one of the guys here. I got to be successful for this team to be successful, which is true. We've been saying that for the last few years. But that's got to be psychologically hard when you struggle for a little bit and then it just compounds, and then you're wondering, like, why can't I figure it out, and blah blah blah. Now, he doesn't have to be the guy. I mean, it'd be good if he's good, obviously, but you got Santander now, Bo's healthy, Vladdy's there. He doesn't have to hit the home runs. He doesn't have to be a huge contributor. He just has to kind of help, like I said earlier, lengthen the lineup a little bit. Yeah, he just got to be kind of now down in the order 5 or 6, wherever he ends up hitting. Just help move things along, and then hit the occasional home run like he did today, which is great.
The thing with him though is I do not feel comfortable with him in center field, and I do not feel comfortable with him in left field. I think he just needs to stay in right field.
Has he played in left field yet in the season?
I think he's been moved
He's been in
there, but
center.
not like, but
He
I
hasn't
think
started there.
he hasn't started there. I think they've like kind of shuffled things around a little bit, but he definitely hasn't started there. But the outfield is a bit of a game of musical chairs out there right now, and I guess kind of rightfully so until Varsho is back. But who needs Varsho when you have Miles Straw going 3 for 4 with 2 doubles today?
That was going to be another thing that I was going to mention that has just been
Nice surprise.
a nice positive is not just Miles Straw, but Tyler Heineman having a good few games there that he's been playing. He threw somebody out today, second pretty impressive arm on him. Alan Roden's been decent, and Will Wagner's been contributing. So just that kind of the bench crew, Ernie Clement included, has been, contributing, moving guys along, putting down good bunts, and just, like I said, helping extend that lineup and bringing the top order of the order back around without, too many outs on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move to Vladdy. And it's a 2-part kind of question. Are we concerned about Vladdy? Because I think he's cold. He's quite cold right now. But are we concerned about Vladdy? Also, are you surprised at the lack of I don't hear any talk about, oh, he didn't sign a contract. Oh, he didn't sign. Now saying that, the broadcast team is, the Jays own Rogers, so there may have been some instructions not to talk about this, but I don't feel, at least to start the year, and probably starting the year at home, probably a good thing when it comes to this because you can control this a bit more. But I don't feel the distraction that I thought it may have been. And I know we touched on that last episode.
I'm not worried. I mean, any 7-game stretch in the middle of June and that you see Vladdy have, I mean, the kind of few games that he's had, you probably wouldn't say much. I mean, you might mention that he hasn't been good for the last 7 games, but I mean, I trust that he's going to turn it around. Yeah, he's a little bit, I guess, not Vladdy, but he's also not contributing. He's got a few hits. He's been walking. He's, got a couple I think 3 or 4 doubles, something like that. So he's been there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we do need him to kind of be better in the long run. Against teams like in this upcoming series against New York, the Mets. We need him and Santander to kind of turn it around sooner than later.
He started off cold last year, so I think it's it's going to take him a little bit of time just to warm up before he starts hitting some homers. In regards to the contract, I mean, as a fan, I kind of forgot about it, but like you said, Alex, the broadcast team hasn't said much about it. So because they're not bringing it up when it's game time, you're just looking at game time and not thinking about the contract. So that's actually a nice little distraction that we can actually sit back and watch the game and watch him play it as opposed to just thinking about the contract. And then Dusty, like you said, when you start hitting middle of June, then it's like, okay, now what's going to happen? Are the Jays doing well? Or they're going to try to re-sign him? Are they going to, if they're doing poorly, are they going to try to trade him? So that's still a few months away. So, just trying to kick back and relax and just kind of enjoy the game. But I think at the back of your head, it still kind of dwindles when you start thinking about it, about whether he's going to be a J or not.
Yeah, it really, and maybe it's the kind of early season positivity. I've just kind of enjoyed having the Jays back on TV, as we talked about this week, Rob.
Oh yeah,
you just throw on the game, chill out, watch some baseball, or even you can have it on in the background or whatever if you're doing something else. Yeah. But it's just kind of nice to have that back, and it hasn't really crossed my mind. And the only reason I kind of wanted to ask the question is going into the season, there's all this oh, we're going to sign Vladdy from Shapiro, and Ross is positive and, they're going to go back to him with an offer and all this. And as I said, I don't know if it's because they're at home and they can kind of control the messaging a little bit. But it definitely wasn't top of mind.
No, I think that's a good point. I think that, there's going to be occasions. I mean, maybe in this next series, right? The Mets are going to be a team that's going to be bidding for Guerrero's services in the free agency.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
So absolutely, there's going to be reporters there on Friday that are going to want to talk to Vladdy, going to want to ask him about what he thinks about the city. What is he, what are you, are you willing to come here? Blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be answers and those are going to be in the news cycle. So that's going to happen at every city that thinks they have a chance at Vladdy. And until he gets signed, I mean, that's just what we've got to deal with. Whether or not it's going to be a distraction, I think that's a little bit overblown. Like, one, I don't think Vladdy is the kind of guy that gets distracted by that. When it comes to the other players on the team, it's almost like I'm sure they're just more worried about their own careers and their own, batting average to care about whether or not he's going to be signing.
Yeah, that's true. With that being said, I think he's going to get his first home run in New York.
In New York, yeah.
Ooh,
I think so.
I like it.
I think he's going to try to put on a show.
So on the good side of things, bullpen looking pretty good, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, the back end for sure. I mean, Hoffman,
Jimmy.
Yeah, and Jimmy Garcia and even Chad Green, they've been pretty locked down. You get, like I said earlier, you get into the 7th inning and I'm pretty confident that this bullpen's gonna close it out. As much as I liked Jordan Romano, I mean, Jeff Hoffman is a closer. Like,
although he did make me a bit nervous this afternoon.
He did, yeah. He gave up a run there, but
I was like, and now, I mean, granted, I haven't paid much attention when he, closed out the other few games. But today I was kind of like, I don't know. I was a little bit nervous. I had Heineman not thrown out that guy at second. I don't know. I was feeling uncomfortable. So, but I mean, everybody's entitled to sort of a bad game, right? Every 3 games or whatever it is. So, just something to keep an eye out. But I agree. The back end of the bullpen seems to be pretty strong.
I think what happened there today was that Jeff Hoffman likes to throw like first pitch strikes, and I think they're just those two. I think there were 2 doubles off first pitch. Strikes. I mean, they just kind of took the chance and swung at that first pitch because he's been kind of just doing that. Kind of feels like what happened there. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I mean, his other saves were locked down and, it's I can't complain about Hoffman, Garcia, Green.
Even Nick Sandlin.
Yeah, Nick Sandlin's been okay. I mean, Brennan Little's a little bit shaky. What's his name? Jacob Barnes is not good. Hopefully we don't see him too much. But I mean, he's the mop up guy. So
yeah, but Dustin, I was listening in the car and they're like, Jacob Barnes is still warming up. This is like he was warming up for like 4 innings. Like he practically had an outing in the bullpen today.
I mean, well, because there's an off day tomorrow.
But he was also, it was one of those, if this goes to a 4-run lead, then we'll throw Barnes in. If it's 3, we'll he was like he was the other option, right? And they just kept him like warm for like the back half of that game, which I was kind of laughing at.
Yeah, that is funny, but I mean, that's his job. I mean, I don't know. Yariel Rodriguez is one guy that I'm not so sure about. I mean, he had a really good inning Sunday, I think, where he came in and just like looked lights out. I think it was in the 8th inning and looked really good. But then today, I don't know. He's kind of, I'm iffy on him. I don't know. We'll see.
I actually didn't see his performance today. I was kind of moving around towards the end of the game. And the only thing I didn't pay much attention either. Yeah, the Barrios' second start, and something that I'm gonna pay a little bit of attention to, and I think is actually gonna matter this year, is how decisive John Schneider is in pulling guys. Because he left Barrios in, and he's done this, not a lot, but he does this from time to time where he leaves the starting pitcher in, basically creates a giant mess that he has to bring in someone to clean it up, right? So Yariel Rodriguez, I believe yesterday, came in and didn't look good, right?
Right.
He came in with like two guys on base. Like this guy's used to being a starting pitcher. He's used to coming in for a clean inning. And so I do also think that someone like Yariel Rodriguez, you gotta kind of set him up for success too. Like I don't think he's not Jimmy Garcia, right? Like Jimmy Garcia, I think yesterday they're like, whoa, that's a 7-pitch inning. You know what that means? He could pitch tomorrow too. Like he was so efficient that in 7 pitches he was out of an inning. And Jimmy Garcia is basically going to be like the hired gun this year, where it's like, all right, we're in a sticky situation. Jimmy's going to get us out of this.
Yeah, whether it's the 8th inning or not. Yeah, I agree with that.
And he'll also spell Hoffman when Hoffman needs, day off or scheduled day off or whatever. But I just thought, like, Yariel Rodriguez was like, I was kind of annoyed. I was like, dude, like, why are you leaving Barrios in here? He's clearly like, he's kind of losing it, right? Like, his control's not so good. He's looking frustrated. He's not getting those, he thinks borderline calls. It's like, dude, just like hook him.
That was the time. Yeah. And you're better off doing it now before it gets too late in the season.
And you know what? Like, there was like that particular incident yesterday, and I think I was messaging you guys. It was like, this was like they were teetering, right? Like that was one of those things that they managed to get out of it, but they're like kind of teetering where, you get a guy who puts a swing on a ball and there's a 3-run home run, and you're looking at, you're on the wrong side of that result rather than, picking up the win.
I agree with your point on Yariel Rodriguez. I think it's a tough situation to throw him into. But I mean, you're in the bullpen. That's your job. Sometimes you gotta do those kinds of things. I don't necessarily agree with your assessment that he should have been pulled earlier. I think he was pulled at the right time. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's tough because you got to balance, like, does this guy look like he's losing it with, let's give him a chance to like get out of it because this guy's good and he can, induce a double play and you're out of the inning. So, I mean, it's always a tough call. That's kind of probably the most impact the manager has in any kind of given game, is like those decisions of when to make that call. I mean, it worked out, so I can't say it was wrong, but I don't know. Sometimes I might be a little frustrated. I might be a little frustrated on the other end if it's like they take him out too early, they bring Rodriguez in, and then he gives up, the 3-run home run.
He blows up, yeah.
And it's like, well, you should have left in Barrios. He was fine. He could have got out of it.
I don't know if we're talking like playoff Barrios. Do you know what I mean? Also, like, we're talking about it's April, right? It's still April. So I think my opinion on leaving a pitcher in say June is just different than April for me, right? Like, after he's got a bunch of innings under his belt, he's really stretched out that arm, but as you said, it worked out. So it's like, right. But I do think that I one of the things that I'm kind of penciling in, I'm not going to write it in pen yet, but I think this team is going to be decent. I don't think this is a team that's going to like run away with the division. And so in my opinion, I think John Schneider's got to be very careful with leaving guys in too long, because I still am not totally sold on that this is a team that's just going to outscore other teams, even with, the top 3, having, starting to really perform. I'm not totally sold on that yet. And I think John Schneider's interventions will matter. So, and the other thing is with these two series, we still need more time to see this team because we're talking about Baltimore. Baltimore without Gunnar Henderson, I don't think is Baltimore. They're not the Baltimore Orioles, right? Jackson Holiday, he's a great prospect, right? Matt Holiday's son, great prospect, but he's hitting like ninth, right? Like Gunnar Henderson was like a top 3 hitter, right, in their lineup, and so I think that's a considerably different team. I already kind of weighed in on the Nationals. I don't think they're very good, but we're gonna find out a lot about this team. We have a day off on Thursday, and we start a series in Queens against the Mets. Then they go to Boston, and guess what? Then they go to Baltimore.
Yep, it's a tough schedule.
In 2 weeks' time, I think we're gonna have a pretty good idea of.
We're probably having a different. Yeah,
well, it might be a different conversation, or we might say, yeah, all right, this team's pretty good this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is a gauntlet for sure of a stretch, especially to start a season. I mean, I think you're right. I think this is kind of going to tell us what kind of team we have. I mean, I think we're already getting a pretty good insight into it, but let's hope what Rob said earlier happens, and that, you know, we get a home run from Guerrero here in New York, and he has a good season, you know, trying to show himself off to the Mets. I don't know, because that means we're going to have a good series.
So what's a successful run for this when they're away? Because I think it's a 10 game. They're away for 10 games. Like if they go 5-5, is that like, all right, that's what we expect? You know, if they go,
I'll take
6-4,
sure.
You're okay with a 5-5?
I would take 5-5.
5-5 I would take. You're still 2-3 games above 500. It's on the road. Yeah, a 5-5 road trip would be great. Not great. It would be acceptable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then anything better than that is gravy, right?
Yeah, because that would be 10-7, right? They would be 10-7 coming out of that.
Because they're 5-3, right? 5-2 right now.
I would agree it's acceptable. Because, you know, obviously I'd like to win all of those series, but Boston not looking great right now, so they're kind of stuttering a little bit to start the season. But, you know, Vladdy versus Juan Soto, obviously Baltimore is, you know, they still have other quality players. As I said, they're not as good as they would be with Gunnar Henderson in the lineup, but, you know, I don't think going to Camden Yards is. I don't think the Jays have ever really had a good kind of run of it at Camden Yards. I feel like it's one of their like bogey kind of road trips, and that when they go to Baltimore, it's kind of a bit dodgy.
I don't know, like I haven't looked at the numbers, but you're right, Al. It's like it always seems like a kind of a place that I'm dreading.
Yeah, it's not as bad as the Trop, but yeah, no. I can kind of see where you're going with that. I mean, with the Boston series, Vladdy seems to hit well at Fenway, so you know, maybe we see a couple of home runs there, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Well, one good thing. Anthony Santander is not on the Orioles anymore. He's on our team now. So we won't be seeing, you know, Santander, you know, swinging for the warehouse at Camden Yards. Yeah.
Well, hopefully he does this year.
Yes, hopefully he does this year. I thought actually, just to touch on Santander, today being, I guess, Wednesday the 2nd, this episode's going to come out later in the week, but Wednesday the 2nd, I thought he had a pretty decent game today. Maybe, you know, not like standout like Springer was, but he seemed like he's slowly he's getting there.
Yeah, he's warming up. I think he got a double today, and yeah, he looked good. We'll need to see some taters from Tony here soon.
Taters, yeah.
Look, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm looking forward to them heating up and seeing some. Hopefully, they'll be the 1-2 punch instead of the Jimenez Kirk 1-2.
Yeah.
All right. This past weekend, Dustin, the New York Yankees appear to be using slightly different bats. They're calling it the torpedo bat, or as our high school friend Amir would say, it looks like one of those pins that like a juggler has, which I think is even better. But I don't think it's a good enough name. But yeah, the torpedo bat. Dustin, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, as long as it's legal, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, there's a lot of things like this. I'm sure there's a way to counter it, right? So just in case there's anybody out there in the world that hasn't heard about it, the idea is that they kind of push some of the weight of the bat, the meat of the bat, towards the label, towards the hands for players that tend to hit the ball in that spot. Essentially, they've kind of figured out like some of our players, more than often hit the ball in this spot. So let's beef up the bat in that spot and lighten it up at the end. And that'll kind of give them a better contact and just more mass where they make contact. So, I mean, it makes sense. I don't know why it hasn't been thought about in the past. I think I've heard a lot of people say that these aren't that new. It's just kind of new that a whole team is now kind of taking it on. I think they have like 6 guys out of their 9 that use this bat on the Yankees. And part of it is like, because it's the Yankees that are doing this, it's like, a thing because the world revolves around the Yankees in baseball. But I don't know. I don't have much of a problem. It seems to me like you can counter this with, splitters away, change-ups away, and whatever pitches you have that can kind of induce a contact towards the end of the bat. That's how you counter it. I don't know. So it seems like it's just one of those kind of cat and mouse game things. And I think we'll see probably a lot of players try it out now that it's such a kind of a big thing. I heard like David Schneider was playing around with it or thinking about using it. So
yeah, he's using it. I saw him yesterday. He was using it.
Yeah, they've made reference to it. Yeah.
It doesn't seem. I was kind of watching, and it doesn't. At least from the TV, it didn't seem like as exaggerated. Like I looked at it and I was like, "Is that a?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks like it is." And then of course the commentators confirmed that it was. I'm kind of with you, Dustin, in that I'm kind of wondering why this didn't happen before, and the fact that people are. I did hear some mentions that like this is being overplayed too, for that reason that it maybe has happened before. It's just as you said, the acceptance rate, not what the Yankees, and of course the Yankees are kind of, the center of the baseball world, or at least they would like to think of that. I guess it makes sense for certain players and probably how they swing and how they make contact, as you said. They do look a little funny. Just they do look like kind of funny bats, but yeah, like if it's something that works for a player. My understanding is that they are legal. My understanding is you have a diameter limit, right? So it can only be so wide. So generally that was towards the barrel, towards the end of the bat, creating the barrel, I guess. I believe there's like a length, and I think maybe a drop limit too, but that's about it, right?
And it has to be solid wood or something like that.
Solid wood, yeah. Yeah, obviously you can't have the Sammy Sosa corked, corked bat, but yeah, it seems legal, and I don't know. I'm imagining in 3 months, I think probably won't even be talking about this, but if it works for some players, great, and if it helps David Schneider make better contact, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as long as it's legal. And I actually think, like, I was reading up on it, and the guy who kind of invented it, it actually made sense. So I was like, yeah, why didn't anybody think of this earlier? But I do think, if I read correctly, that Giancarlo Stanton actually, I think, used it in the playoffs last year.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I think he had quite a few home runs with it. So I don't think it's as new, but people are trying it out, and hey, if players on the Jays can do it and it works for them, then all the power to them. So hopefully it catches for David Schneider and he can do better this year with the torpedo bat than he did last year.
Let's hope.
All right, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me.